It's almost. Okay, we're live on Facebook. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes before 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started, and I'm just going to. So firstly, I'm going to acknowledge the Katzie First Nation and Kwantlen First Nation on whose unceded territories chamber activities take place. Obviously, that's whether it be in person, which hasn't happened for a while, or virtually as today. As I mentioned, we are recording and we are live on Facebook. So welcome everyone who's in attendance and for our candidates that have made time to be with us today. So I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, longtime volunteer in the community and two-time past president of the Chamber of Commerce, Ken Holland.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this virtual MLA All Candidates meeting hosted by the Chamber of Commerce serving Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows. On behalf of the Chamber, I welcome you and thank you for informing yourselves on the issues. My name is Ken Holland, past president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be your moderator for this event. I would like to thank the candidates for joining us this morning, and I would like to introduce them. Lisa Beare and Cheryl Ashlie. Lisa is the incumbent for Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows, and we'd like to open up the floor for your opening statements. We had a draw beforehand, and Lisa is going to go first.
Great, thank you, Ken. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are speaking today from the territories of the Katzie and the Kwantlen First Nations. And I want to thank everyone who's joining us online today. I want to thank Cheryl and really to the Chamber for organizing today's important discussion. We all share a love for this community and for our province. And as always, I'm sure there's going to be excellent and important questions put to us by the Chamber. So I'm really looking forward to that discussion. But let me first say, it has been a complete honor to represent Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows as your MLA and to serve the province as the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture. This is my home. I grew up here in Maple Ridge, and it's where I chose to start my family. And to get the chance to serve is really the privilege of a lifetime. And together we've accomplished a lot in these last 3 years, but there is so much more work to do. And I know these last few months have been extremely challenging, but every single British Columbian should be proud of how we've handled this pandemic together. It's due to your hard work and your sacrifice. Every single person, every single business who took Dr. Henry's recommendations to heart, who've gotten us where we are today. So a big thank you to all of you for that. Now, John Horgan and the BC NDP have a plan to take care of you and your family during the pandemic, a plan that's focused on you, a plan that invests in healthcare, in childcare, in seniors care, education, economic recovery. And with that, I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Okay, well, she's done anyways.
Thank you.
She's done anyway, so.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Cheryl?
Thank you, Ken. I would also like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of Katzie and Kwantlen First Nation. Thank you to the Chamber and to everybody who is viewing this today. During my 2 terms on Maple Ridge Council, ending in 2014, I had a track record of lobbying to remove red tape and supporting Chamber initiatives such as mobile business licenses. Small business represents the best of British Columbia, and we are the backbone of the economy. COVID has presented us with unprecedented times. The BC Liberal plan is built on what we have heard from citizens and our winning track record of improving the economy of British Columbia. Once we are through the crisis, the BC Liberals will ensure we get back to balanced budgets, consistent debt reduction, and strong long-term fiscal management that guarantees a bright future for all British Columbians. We cannot afford another 4 years with the NDP government that has a proven track record of creating an us and them environment and providing jobs to their union insiders, such as a community benefits agreement that has cost every family $4,000 to cover the increased costs to the public projects under that agreement. As we navigate COVID and our recovery plan, businesses and people in general need government support more than ever. That's why our party has built our platform on key issues that people are concerned about: support for businesses, family, housing, homeless, addictions, mental health, seniors care, healthcare, public safety, all of which intersect. We have key deliverables throughout each of these portfolios focused on growing the economy, because we are the party that builds British Columbia and provides solid economic leadership. I have heard from businesses that the NDP treat them like second-class citizens. We are going to change that. We have worked together through COVID, and as a province, we need to come together and work once again. The BC Liberals will provide that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, candidates, and welcome again. Let's review the rules for today's meeting. This is a nonpartisan all candidates forum, not a debate. If you have an opinion, please contact the candidate directly following this meeting. The candidate to whom the question has been directed will have a maximum of 2 minutes to respond. The moderator will then ask the same or a new question for the other candidate. There will be no opportunity for rebuttals. We will endeavor to give all the candidates an opportunity to respond to questions. Timing will be strictly enforced. Timing is the one tool we have to ensure that we have the opportunity for the maximum number of questions to the candidate in our limited amount of time. So, thank you very much again for joining us. Everybody watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us. First question will be for Cheryl. I'm going to go right to the heart of the matter on this one. Homelessness. As you are aware, the homeless issue has been a problem for some time in our community. There are many factors that go into why an individual is homeless. Needless to say, it has a negative impact on business, residents, and the way visitors view a community. What is your position on this issue, and how would your party represent our community at the provincial level and effectively try to address the matter locally? Cheryl.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, we know homelessness is caused by multiple situations that people are faced in life, whether it's an addiction issue, poverty, mental health. Andrew has been very clear in his statements that we need to address this from a root cause. We need to get to the issues of why somebody is homeless. We need to get to the issues of unsupported mental health support. We need to get to the issues of addiction from an individual perspective. We are going to implement the 4 pillars where we are not just focusing on harm reduction, which we believe has gotten us in the situation that we're in right now with the warehousing of people without adequate supports. And we're going to look at the complete package: harm reduction, enforcement, treatment, prevention. We've put quite a, within our platform, we have looked at the whole public safety perspective. We're going to bring in the CAR 40 model that's very, very successful, where there's police going with mental health workers. We're going to ensure that we have treatment for people. We need to make sure that we provide that so that they have the full spectrum of supports. We need to make sure that what we are designing in our community is designed with the people within the community at the table. We have some very successful projects in our community that actually were collaborated through people within the community. Whether it's Alouette Heights, its original model to be second stage, or whether it's the new build that's happening at 228th and 119th, which is a BC Liberal project. We will work collectively with people around the table to get to the root cause, and we will move people through the recovery. We will get people housed, and we will get the supports for people with mental health and addictions. And I can't say enough that I believe our communities of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows have the compassion and the commitment to work with us on that strategy. And you have the BC Liberals' commitment that we will work collaboratively with this community. We will involve people with this in the solutions, and we will ensure that people are supported.
Thank you very much. Lisa, the same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's okay. Thank you, Ken. And really, thank you for the question, because I know this is important for the people of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows. We are facing homelessness challenges in every corner of our province. And I agree with Cheryl that I know the citizens of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows are compassionate and they want to help our most vulnerable citizens. But I think that we need to be very clear here. Homelessness tripled under the previous government's watch. In fact, it spiked 30% in 2014 to 2017 alone. I mean, those are just staggering numbers. there was a lack of investment in affordable housing, mental health services, and treatment beds by the previous government, which made an already difficult situation so much worse, which is why we are taking action. And over the past 3 years, we've delivered or are currently building 25,000 affordable homes across the province to support our communities. We're tackling the root causes of homelessness by introducing BC's first ever poverty reduction strategy. And let's not forget, we were the only province in Canada who didn't have a poverty reduction strategy. So we made sure that we have one in place. We are expanding supports for mental health services. We created the first ever Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, as well as increasing the number of treatment beds across the province, including here in our community, and we're doubling our youth treatment beds in every corner. These are just a few of the examples of the work that our government is doing, because at the end of the day, homelessness is one of the most complex issues facing our province, and we need a comprehensive approach and really the will to tackle it. It's not easy work, but we are making progress, and I'm confident if we're able to be re-elected, that we'll continue working on this every single day.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Moving on to our next question, but before I do, I'd just like to point out a lot of these questions have been submitted by our members, and I will get to some of the latest ones that just came in at the end if we do have time. But for now, I'm going to stick with the agenda here. The second question is about small business. Over 98% of businesses in the province are considered small businesses with less than 100 employees. What specific measures will you introduce to help small business thrive? Cheryl?
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for the question. So we've made our platform announcement yesterday morning. We finally finalized it all. So I'm going to hit the highlights of the small business area. So we're going to eliminate the small business income tax entirely. And that'll help keep more people working and make our community thrive again. Assist small businesses in adopting COVID-19 protections by support of the personal protection equipment from WorkSafe BC surpluses, provide full disclosure of basis for work safety premiums, conduct a full review of property taxes to ensure small businesses can survive, take real action to address the sky-high property tax assessments on small business by implementing split assessments, appoint a nonpartisan panel to help dramatically reduce the red tape burden on small businesses by reviewing regulatory requirements and costs and providing recommendations on the best steps to fuel economic recovery, cap online food delivery charges by third-party apps at 15% to support local restaurants during the pandemic, support hospitality businesses by permanently allowing liquor delivery with takeout, wholesale pricing from any liquor store, and streamlined approval of patio and outdoor dining. Help small businesses prepare for online business and commerce to be able to market their products and services to the world, and address the skilled labor shortage throughout BC, which I've heard, and we all know that the challenges of training and keeping a workforce is very challenging. And right now with the options of people staying home, we really have to encourage people to get back out into the workforce. We have businesses that are, you see the signs up, if they're open, they're looking for skilled workers. So we really need to support that skilled worker shortage also. So that's a component of our platform there.
Oh, you still have time left. Well, thank you very much.
Sorry? Yeah, no, I'm get to the point.
Lisa, same question, please.
Thank you, Ken. So the biggest issue facing small businesses in our community right now is COVID-19. And the most important thing we can do for our economy and for our small businesses is to keep our people safe and healthy throughout this pandemic. We want our businesses to remain open so that we can participate in the economy. This has been our government's #1 priority since the beginning. And collectively, as I've said before, we made good progress, but we have more work to do. We are going to continue to listen to our public health officials and make decisions that are based in science. We're going to continue to work with our business community to hear from them exactly what their needs are, like we have for the past 7 months. And we're going to continue to support small businesses by ensuring they have access to liquidity through our small business grants, $300 million to help small businesses survive these challenging times. We have a new recovery investment fund, which is going to build much needed infrastructure and will flow $3 billion of economic activity throughout the province into our local economies. In fact, that infrastructure fund is resulting in the complete rebuild of Pitt Meadows Secondary School if we're elected here in our community. And we're going to be putting dollars back into people's pockets and throughout the province by providing a $1,000 emergency benefit to workers who get to spend that money in our local economies, supporting our small businesses. We know small businesses are the backbone of our economy, especially here in Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows, which is why we want to continue to take steps to make sure we have the resources we need to support people, support businesses, and everyone in our province through these challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaking of economy, given the sizable impact small businesses have on the economy, the Chamber calls on all parties to affirm the importance of small business to the ongoing success and sustainability of communities in BC, across the country, and to the national economy as a whole. Cheryl, if elected, what will be the economic priorities for your government? List the 3 most pressing issues facing the economy that your government will address. Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely COVID is, it has put us in this unprecedented environment of crisis, and so clearly we need to work our way through COVID. We need to, again, get businesses open. We need to ensure that families are themselves secure and able to participate in investing back into businesses and participate. So getting everybody back on track, getting the population back up. We plan on doing much of the same as what Lisa has saying. We've got the infusion we're going to have the largest infusion of capital dollars into the province's history, $30.9 billion, to move the province forward. So we will be building the bridges again. All of British Columbia has been virtually built by BC Liberals. This community has benefited from all of those projects. The bridges, Golden Ears, Pitt River, the South Perimeter Road that we are always using, Portman Bridge, all the upgrades to the low heat highway, all of our schools, seismic upgrades, those projects all land mainly on the BC Liberals' watch. We are going to reinvest in those same build-outs. We're going to invest in hospitals, invest in roads, invest in all of the education facilities that we need. We're going to build out this province again so that we are again returning to an economic driver that we were prior to the NDP taking over, and we're going to reduce taxes. That is one area that we really are desperately needing to do with the 23 taxes that the NDP have put on it. Everybody, that's about $959 more that families are paying through those taxes. We are going to tackle the tax reduction and rebuilding the province and getting people back to work. So I'm sorry, but the timer always looks like it times out at 0 on me here. So I wasn't quite sure if so yeah, and we're definitely going to work with a small business. We're working with municipal governments. And sorry.
Thank you. That's okay.
Thanks.
Lisa, to you, if elected, what will be the economic priorities for your government?
Thank you, Ken. So the most important thing we can do for economic recovery is keep people safe through our pandemic. That is our government's #1 priority, and we have made good progress collectively with every single British Columbian and small business. In BC, we have been able to return to 96% of our job levels since before the pandemic began. But we know that people are still hurting and businesses are still struggling. So we have more work to do. John Horgan's economic strategy works for everyone while focusing on people and making sure we have the resources in place so that we can continue supporting people through the pandemic. We're working to make life more affordable. We eliminated the MSP and the bridge tolls. We're working to expand our $10 a day childcare program, for example. We're working to improve our healthcare, which is particularly important during a pandemic. We brought urgent primary care to Haney Place Mall and primary care networks to Maple Ridge. We're focused on creating jobs. And I was particularly happy to see that $3 billion infrastructure recovery fund, which is resulting in the new Pitt Meadows High School. Now that's on top of a $23 billion infrastructure capital budget already in that we tabled in the spring. These are just a few of the steps that we're taking to help us through the pandemic, to keep us all safe, to build our economy, but most importantly, to make sure that it works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And sticking with the economy for one more question. Cheryl, do you believe different levels of government are collaborating effectively to support economic growth in Vancouver?
Wait 1 second. I just have to wait for the timer to end out. Then I can reset it. There we go.
You had all that time left, Lisa. Cheryl, would you care for me to repeat the question?
I think I caught it. It's the one effectively, are we working together?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Different levels of government, are they effectively collaborating effectively?
Yeah, specifically through COVID, absolutely. I think we saw some very, it was just that beautiful sort of nonpartisan approach to just coming together for the greater good. And definitely in response to COVID, that showed how we can work together. And that's the type of collaborative work that the BC Liberals like to do. And that's the type of work that I certainly represent in anything that I do and the voice I would bring from Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows. But there certainly are issues that we have to address moving forward under the economy as the BC Liberals. We would address that community benefit agreement that's in place by the NDP. That's not working together because it really sets the tone of an us and them environment in British Columbia. And we need to be open to all businesses, all trades. When there is a strong economy, there's enough work for everyone. We just need a government that knows how to create that economy for all, and that the BC Liberal does do that. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of room for improvement right now from this government that's in place right now, because we do know that when the economy is thriving, there is enough work out there. The challenge is getting enough tradespeople and skilled labor. So we need to do better with that, working together to provide the post-secondary, the training, working with education, identifying, those service gaps and those trades gaps and making sure we tackle that. And those are always done collectively through municipal, provincial, federal levels, because you need to build out all the abilities for people to either achieve those labor skill trainings and such. But definitely always room for improvement on working together. But we have seen that collaboration model, that it is there, and it is something that probably does get the best outcome. So we will definitely be striving to rekindle the relationship with our local councils of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows and grow that relationship. And throughout that and the region, Metro Vancouver region, there's a lot of stuff in our environmental plan and our economic development. Oh, sorry, I'm going to that zero. I keep forgetting to look over there. Sorry about that, Ken. I'll shut up.
Lisa, do you believe different levels of government are collaborating effectively to support economic growth in our communities?
Absolutely, I do. I think our government has worked closely and collaboratively with all levels of government. We are working with the Mayor's Council to proceed with that critical infrastructure projects we need across the province. We're working together provincially and municipally on a number of projects, including a continuum of rental housing, a youth safe house, treatment beds, childcare, urgent primary care. We're working closely with the federal government to coordinate our response to COVID. I had the privilege of being on weekly calls with my federal counterparts all across the province and with the federal minister of tourism so that we were addressing the top issues of our provinces together. We were working closely with our First Nations and in partnership through UNDRIP. We were the first province to enshrine in rights the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. And we signed a long-term agreement, 25 years of revenue sharing with First Nations, which is something they've been asking for over a decade. We are the first province to fund on reserve housing, the first one being in Catesy First Nation, right here in our community. We're modernizing our environmental assessment process by increasing avenues for Indigenous participation to identify issues of concern right from the start. And importantly as well, we're working with elected school boards to identify their priorities and work with them, which is why we're able to identify their #1 priorities, like rebuilding Pitt Meadows High School and purchasing land for a new school in Silver Valley. So that is every level of government that we are working closely with, and I look forward to continuing that work if we're honored to do so.
Thank you very much. Speaking of First Nations, the province's future is heavily reliant on the inclusion of all Canadians, respecting and building on our diverse cultures and peoples. Indigenous economic reconciliation is inextricably linked to deeper, lasting reconciliation. And Indigenous communities in BC are leading with some of Canada's most impressive proposals and active projects. If elected, Cheryl, what plans do you have to advance economic reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I just want to also state that it was a unanimous support of UNDRIP in the House. I think it was one of the major milestones in the House where the Green Party, the BC Liberals, and the NDP all voted in favor of UNDRIP. But I do believe that when the first piece of legislation came into the House that would have supported the First Nations, it was the NDP that actually voted against it. So, and I think Sonia Furstenau was quite clear on the debate last night about the disappointment of that. And that's why we have 3 hereditary chiefs supporting our campaign throughout the project, and also Indigenous members on our team. So the BC Liberal government will work with Indigenous peoples to ensure we don't saddle future generations with unresolved issues of rights and title. We will work every single day to resolve these issues. Work to clearly define how the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People relates to land use decisions and existing case law regarding title held by Indigenous people and the right to self-determination. We will actively support the rights of First Nations to negotiate for economic benefit of their peoples with additional supports from the province, including renewing capacity funding. Provide financing mechanism to enable First Nations to access affordable capital to co-invest in revenue generation economic opportunities. Prioritize sector-specific job training opportunities for Indigenous people. Expedite Indigenous-led LNG export projects through collaborative agreements. Require every provincial employee to undertake cultural safety and humility training. Work with the First Nations Health Authority to improve health and wellness for Indigenous people across BC and to eliminate systemic racism from the healthcare system.
Thank you very much. Lisa, what plans do you have to advance economic reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities?
Thank you, Ken. And this is an important and a great question that we should all be addressing. And I thank Cheryl for her answer there. But I want to talk about one of the ways that I've personally been able to help advance reconciliation and economic development for First Nations throughout the province, and that's through tourism. We have just over 400 Indigenous-owned tourism businesses here in the province, and that number should be so much larger. Many First Nations are looking to tourism as a source of economic development and a way to diversify their economy. They want to build capacity, and we're working with them to, I have the privilege of working with them to build partnership opportunities, to work in collaboration with Indigenous Tourism BC. That is reconciliation in action. It makes me think of a tour I was able to do in the Kootenays to St. Eugene's Resort. So what this is it's a former residential school that the First Nation has now purchased, turned over to an operator, and is operating it as a hotel because they wanted to take a place of darkness and turn it into a beacon of hope and a beacon of economic opportunity for their community. I mean, this is those experience of reconciliation in action. Visitors are able to go sleep under the stars in yurts if they choose, and sit around a campfire eating bison stew, and they get to listen to an elder tell stories of their past. You know, this is the type of work we need to be supporting. Indigenous tourism is one of those fastest growing areas of tourism across our province because people are looking for that unique, that authentic experience that you can't get anywhere else except here in BC. And so we're going to support that. I was proud to increase funding to Indigenous tourism BC. I'm proud to work in partnership with First Nations across the province, because we need to foster that relationship. We need to build economic reconciliation between our governments, between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities alike. Thank you.
Thank you. Sticking with the First Nations, with respect to the sensitive nature of development on First Nations land, how does your party see us going forward from here, while maintaining the respect of these nations, land claims, and the effort of both business and the government to work towards greater prosperity for all? Cheryl?
Yeah, I pretty much captured it in outlining our plan there, Ken. So those are the steps that we're going to take within our Indigenous. We're going to continue the work. We're going to be at the tables with them. Exactly what Lisa said. She's spot on. Indigenous people should be part of every aspect of our community. Tourism, absolutely, but they need to be on our job sites. They need to be leading development and business development. We need to see them in our downtown core with businesses, opening businesses. We need to give them the same opportunities. And why we've put in our platform addressing the systemic racism is because we still have those system barriers to that. We need to get through our education system, through addressing the barriers that we have constructed for them to be truly participatory in our society. That is the fundamental first step. Absolutely, we celebrate everything that has happened. We want to honor their choices and where they're going, but we still know that they are very narrowly focused because we have not broken down the systemic racism that prevents them from being represented within our populations to the degree that they should be. They should be more visible, they should be more involved, and they should be deciding that journey, but we have to remove the barriers from that. So our platform is building from that, and then the opportunities. They lead so many of the renewable projects throughout the province. They intimately know the land. They know what they want back from the land. They know what to do with the land, and they want to be empowered to be able to bring that knowledge and continue to be First Nations and continue to represent their culture and their beliefs and their practices, but in a way that it is contributory to all of British Columbians.
Thank you very much. Lisa?
Thank you, Ken. Reconciliation is critical to the future of every British Columbian, Indigenous and non-Indigenous alike. That hard work is all of our responsibilities. One of the first things Premier Horgan did was put in every single minister's mandate letter our commitment to UNDRIP and to the calls of action from the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. I mean, one of our proudest moments, as I mentioned, was enshrining the United Rights and Declaration of Indigenous Peoples into law, which was supported by unanimously in the House by every single party. It was a historic moment in BC, the first in Canada, and a historic moment all around the globe. We are making good on our partnerships with First Nations. As I said, we did sign our 25 years of revenue sharing with First Nations. We modernized our environmental assessment process. We are increasing avenues for Indigenous participation to identify issues of concern right from the start. Our slate of candidates in this election is an excellent example of our support of Indigenous people. We have 5 candidates running across the province. In our government, we had the first Indigenous woman, Indigenous woman as our Minister of Advanced Skills and Training, Advanced Education and Skills Training. This is the type of commitment and action our government is willing to take. It is difficult work, but it is vital if we are going to chart a path forward for our economy and for our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question that's about a subject that's very close to my heart, literally, health. healthcare. Citizens have reported challenges in accessing healthcare. What will you or your party do to address the shortage in doctors and other medical services in our communities? Cheryl?
Yeah, it's a question near and dear to my heart too, because I've just spent the last couple of years as one of the recruiters of doctors to our community. And I know with almost 20, it sits at 8,700, but every time a doctor retires and we can't replace it, it pops up to about 20,000. So in our community, we have about 20,000 people that do not have a family doctor. Under Christy Clark's GP, for me, I know it was made fun of an awful lot by the NDP, but that was a form of which we did bring in a number of doctors into the community. There's a lot of barriers to the internationally trained doctors to come. It is very, very onerous to come to this community or come to Canada and become a practicing physician, even though you may have been one of the top surgeons in ER of Australia. Many of our kids, because they cannot get residency here, leave and get trained in other countries and are very proficient and capable of coming back to our country and serving as doctors. Yet their barriers are against that. We are going to remove those barriers. We're going to make it easier for internationally trained doctors to come back. One of my best friends, born and raised, their daughter in White Rock, is in Australia training right now. She would love to come back here and be a doctor in her community, but there's barriers. So we will break down those barriers. It was announced actually by Adrian Dix, I believe in 2017, that they were going to hire 200 new doctors, and under the alternative payment plan. The contract was so poor that out of the 200, we got 2, because immediately the doctors said they just could not work for that contract. Instead of addressing that, it was left to just linger. Again, 2 doctors out of 200 were hired. And so the BC Liberals will address the shortfalls in the system that does bring doctors and trained nurses and expand nurse practitioners, midwives association. We will be addressing all of those areas to make sure that we do bring doctors into these communities.
Thank you very much. Lisa, I also know this is very close to your heart.
We have matching hearts, Ken. Absolutely, this is important to me. Thank you so much. Because really, this is the #1 issue on everyone's minds these days. COVID-19 truly highlighted how fragile, how fragmented our system of care has become after decades of underfunding, after privatization, and after patchwork solutions to systematic problems that we faced. So strong, accessible public health care has always been an NDP priority, and British Columbians can trust us when we say it always will be. Before the pandemic, we had opened or in the process of opening 21 brand new urgent primary care centers that we have across BC. And these didn't exist before we took office. Had we not done this, our COVID-19 response would have looked very different today. In March, we were able to quickly transition many of these urgent primary care centers into COVID-19 response centers, including the 2 locations we have here in Maple Ridge. There's now an urgent primary care center at Haney Place Mall that operates evenings and weekends and is reducing wait times at Ridge Meadows Hospital. And our community has also noticed that the temporary location we had set up on Lady Street, just behind the hospital, is still functioning as a COVID assessment center. And we brought in 2 primary care networks, which is a full team of healthcare professionals that are connecting people to doctors and other health professionals that they need, so that we can connect those unconnected citizens of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows to care. You know, the Premier John Horgan announced yesterday that if we're reelected, we'll have a 2nd medical school that will be coming to BC. And we're laying out our comprehensive healthcare human resources strategy, including improving our credential recognition program for out-of-country hires. There is a long way to go to turn our healthcare system around, but there is absolutely no better government to do that than the BC NDP. And I look forward to continuing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move to affordable housing now. According to the 2018-2019 Collective Perspective Survey, 95% of BC businesses say that the cost of housing has become a real problem for people in parts of the province. Housing affordability is a growing challenge in Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows as Metro Vancouver expands. As we have experienced across Metro Vancouver, our network recognizes that the purchase price of a house to buy or rent is a market function that will ultimately find a natural balance if left unimpeded. However, government tends to have a distorting effect on the market by consistently imposing unnecessary costs and restrictions on the market in both market housing and purpose-built rental options. This has led to increased cost pressures and increased prices and is negatively impacting housing affordability in communities across BC. Demand for housing will continue to balloon in the years to come, so let's support supply. Progressive housing solutions will address some of our most acute workforce challenges. Long permitting times and uncertain zoning processes need to go. Proper transfer tax reform will help also. Municipalities can also do better in how they design community amenity contributions. Cheryl, if your party forms government, will you support amending the Community Charter and Local Government Act to establish reasonable timelines and focus guidelines for the approval of development permits and local governments, by local governments?
Yeah, we've heard this through all of the challenges of having enough housing, that there is the barriers to moving applications through the system. So we plan on establishing an incentive fund for municipalities with housing policies that enables demonstrable increases in the construction and supply of new housing. Implement tax and permitting changes to boost housing supply, including rental and market housing, to increase choice and improve affordability for British Columbians. Work with municipalities to review the current property tax structure to incent affordable housing development, prevent speculation, and drive affordable rental houses. Require reviews of official community plans every 5 years that are public, robust, and transparent. Require that zoning bylaws then be updated to reflect changes to the plan within 1 year after adoption. Support zoning reform to provide inclusionary zoning and to ensure that residential rental tenure zoning, which I know there was a question around, the tool cannot be used to devalue or down zone property. Ensure no net loss of rental units in real estate development projects. Develop tax relief measures to help people hurt by COVID-19 economic impacts to keep their homes. Implement split assessments for the commercially rented portion of buildings through a new commercial property subclass. Create a new residential property subclass for rental housings of more than 3 units. Change BC assessment practices to ensure rental properties are no longer valued based on the highest and best use, but rather on actual rental use. Provide energy efficient rebates on rental renovations. Use provincial and municipal land affordable housing. Invest in getting homeless British Columbians at home and a home and connecting them with the health and social services supports that they need. And we definitely would go after the speculation tax and get rid of it. It's a punitive tax on people. And also the 11,000 rental use that apparently it created, when you think about it, the people that own those rental homes, where are they going to download the cost of that tax onto the actual renters? So it's a punitive tax all around. We will be getting rid of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I wasn't sure if you were going to reread, Ken. I'm good to go.
I will. You want me to go?
All right, thank you. Well, it's actually a very specific question, so I have a very specific answer for you on it's already happening. This work is underway. We are also responding to the requests of local governments and providing them with the ability to zone for rental so that they can build more rental homes and preserve the existing ones. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is working on developing a document that is actually going to help all local governments understand and make use of the new tool. So thanks for the question.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. Cheryl, if you could introduce one piece of legislation immediately, what would it be?
Okay, I looked at this and I thought, okay, are you specifically talking about for business? Because this is a business forum, but my passion, I could actually turn it into business because I think it would be a tourism opportunity. But I just really feel that just from what we owe the next generation and that legislatively, I would like us to look at addressing on existing dams that we get fish passage, proper fish passages returned to all of those structures, so that we start tackling the loss of our fish species in our waterways. I believe that in most places that have these very active, interactive fish passageways, it is a huge tourism dollar. And I've heard even at our own local economic development tables and at the tourism plan, it was cited a number of times by different groups that it would be an awesome, you know, destination thing for people to come to our community to see it. So just selfishly, from my gift to the future generations, I believe that that would be my wand that I would wave, because I think it touches the environment, our commitment that we have to be given to species that we are decimating through our own needs. And it would attract tourism and really package up what Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows is known for, in that we are just nestled into this beautiful, beautiful part of the Lower Mainland. And it would be another thing to share with people as they head off to the Golden Ears and enjoy our dikes and enjoy our beautiful trail systems, and that it would be just another jewel in the crown of many things that Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows offers. So that would be my wave the wand of the day legislation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lisa, what would be the first thing, one piece of legislation immediately, what would you do?
Thanks, Ken. I really like this question, and to answer it, I have to address a piece of legislation that we just recently passed. So in 2002, the BC Liberals, they passed bills after an election campaign, which they specifically said they would not do, which allowed the government to break union agreements and contract out jobs in healthcare. So that resulted in more than 10,000 healthcare workers, most of them women, losing their jobs, which was the largest loss of jobs in BC history. This completely changed their lives. It devastated entire families. The bill gave care homes and operators and their subcontractors the ability to avoid restrictions. They were able to offer only part-time jobs and pay to avoid paying benefits. And that meant that healthcare workers had to juggle multiple jobs and work at multiple locations to make ends meet. So due to the BC Liberal neglect, our seniors were put at risk, our workers were left struggling, and their changes made it harder to address the pandemic quickly in those care homes. Looking at the current BC Liberal platform, I'm worried that their $8 billion plan to cut in taxes in revenue leaves our healthcare improvements at risk. We've taken action. Our government introduced legislation to repeal those bills. We had around 600 healthcare workers who were able to watch it live via live stream, and they were cheering, they were crying, and every single person from the NDP government who sat there in the House as that bill was tabled cried along with them. This legislation was the first step, and now we need to build on those actions. We need to protect our seniors, we need to improve our care, and I believe British Columbians want us to move forward with that. So if we're re-elected, I want to ensure that the people who clean our hospitals and our long-term care homes, the people who ensure COVID-19 doesn't pass between borders, will be granted that same job security and that same respect, because instability of our workers in the healthcare system puts everyone's health at risk.
Sorry, I have to speak. Thank you. But following up on that, Cheryl, if you could choose one thing that you would like to improve for our community, what would that be?
Okay. I'm just looking for my response. There we go. Thanks. I did write this out. So even before the pandemic, unsustainably high property tax bills threatened the viability of many small businesses. Today, with the impact of COVID-19, these taxes could sink them permanently. Let's find a workable solution to the highest and best used property assessment challenges. At the same time, commercial industrial businesses face an uneven playing field. Commercial properties taxes pay a tax rate that is up to 4 times that of a resident. For industrial properties, this gap is even larger. It is hard to justify the sizable difference when we compare this to municipal services used by a business. Businesses are also impeded by municipal regulations that can act as a barrier to a fast recovery. While there are many issues with municipal regulations, most dealing with zoning and permitting, a longstanding issue for the BC Chamber Network has been the need for intermunicipal mobile business licenses. The province has made progress in advancing economic opportunities for mobile small businesses. That was initiated by the BC Liberals that operate outside their respective city town, but municipalities have not fully adopted these. So as businesses look for opportunity to expand easier and greater access to intermunicipal business license, we'd encourage them to look beyond their municipal borders. But just virtually, we need to, again, when Lisa talks about all of what she would like to do, and the BC Liberals have put so much into healthcare. We have got an active plan to deal with seniors and housing, addictions, mental health. We are going to fill those gaps. And you know, she simplifies it down to one act of, you know, a BC Liberals 17 years ago, when in fact, there has been a rise in cost of healthcare, and it will make up by about 20, 40, 70 cents of every dollar. We must look at how to address this. And the way that we address it is we grow the economy at every level. We do not focus in on one segment of the employment population in unions. We need unions. We need to protect them. We need to make sure that they are just as relevant in the workforce as all of the other businesses. So what I would do is I would hone in on everything that we can to make businesses viable, to make sure that the economy is moving forward, and that does not impact our pocketbooks like the NDP have done over the last 3 years. 23 additional taxes by the NDP, $959. 1/3 of that is the employer health tax costs on individual families, hitting low income families. They are now paying employer health tax through that tax.
Thank you, Cheryl. Lisa, if you could, one thing that you would like to improve for our community, if elected, what would that be?
Thanks, Ken. And I think this might be, you know, one of my favorite questions because I grew up here in Maple Ridge, and I want to make sure that every kid has the same opportunity I did growing up. I want to make sure I'm focusing on their future. That's why I was so proud to announce that our government would build a brand new high school to replace Pitt Meadows Secondary School and purchase the land for a new school in Silver Valley. I want to ensure that our children continue to thrive and that their families have the supports they need. I want to expand on the 700 new childcare spaces, affordable childcare spaces that we have built in our area, along with the $21 million in fee reductions, which we have been able to provide to parents. This is money back in parents' pockets to help them get ahead. And I want to keep ensuring our children have access to mental health and substance supports by continuing to bring in programs like our integrated child and youth teams into schools, doubling our youth treatment beds. Children are our future. We need to protect them. I want to ensure that our kids who need it most are properly fed through our local food program and our hot lunches program at school. I want to keep ensuring that the students have safe learning environments by completing seismic renovations like the ones we did at Westview and at Fairview, and keep building accessible playgrounds like the ones at Glenwood and Highland Park, so all children can have access to safe, fun playgrounds and to equipment so that they can improve their physical activity. I would be absolutely honored to continue working for the children and for the families of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows.
Thank you very much. Sticking with the subject of children, affordable childcare. The lack of affordable childcare can be a barrier, especially to single parents returning to the workforce. Access to childcare has become critical during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've seen women disproportionately impacted. We must find innovative ways to increase access to reliable and affordable childcare to ensure women have equal opportunity to participate in BC's labor force. The pandemic has revealed the critical importance of affordable, dependable childcare to a thriving economy. Women, often the primary caregivers of children, have been traditionally held back from economic opportunities due to the lack of childcare. Will your government improve access to childcare by introducing measures to strengthen private and non-private childcare options and using public options to fill in the gaps in childcare? Cheryl?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very solid plan. We're going to implement a $1.1 billion plan to bring $10 a day daycare to families with household incomes to $65,000, $20 a day for those 90,000, and then $30 a day for 125,000 annual incomes. Dramatically increase access to childcare by building an additional 10,000 new childcare spaces across BC on top of those that have been added by the NDP. Implement a new online province-wide electronic application that is a voluntary for parents and required for all providers receiving government funding. The parent would have the option to reject an invitation for an available space and wait for the next one. Encourage and support a variety of nonprofit market-based childcare providers, expand training and support for better qualified childcare workers, replace the Minister of State for Childcare with a full ministry to manage licensing, funding, and oversight, expand access to before and after school care in schools, and create incentives for employers to support childcare options for their employees. Work collaboratively with the federal government to expand childcare options. I just want to highlight that, in fact, the NDP have failed in their childcare. 85% failure rate. 2% of what they've delivered is a pilot project for $10 a day care. The incentives that were given, my son, he received those incentives for 4 months. And by all the tax increases that impacted daycares, within 4 months, the savings that he got from those grants out were eaten up, were gone. When Carol James was in the community at the chamber lunch and I asked about that, and she said, oh, she had heard about that. I've been on the doorsteps of daycares. They feel they have been duped by the NDP with their plan. We will build a robust plan. We will make sure that it is a fair plan. And it will be deliverable. It will not be announced. John Horgan himself said after he announced it that it was just a slogan. $10 a day was just a slogan. They're re-announcing it again. Lisa Beare, in her report card out to my doorstep, said 450 spaces had been created. 2 weeks later, in a news release after the election, all of a sudden it went up to 700 spaces. Their numbers can't be trusted. Their promises can't be trusted. They promise, but they don't deliver. They recite things they would like to do that they don't do. They have one conversation and they go no further with it. Time and time again, we hear no follow-up.
Oh. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. You know, as a mom of a 5-year-old, I personally know how hard it is to find safe and affordable childcare for my daughter. And so for me, this is one of the most important issues facing our economy and our province, as well as our families. Too many parents were left struggling on long wait lists, and even if they could find a spot, they were facing large fees, leaving parents those difficult choices about whether they can return to work or leave their kids in unlicensed spaces. Now, since we formed government, one of our top priorities has been expanding our access to safe, affordable childcare. Here in our community, we've created over 700 new spaces, 450 in Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows and 250 in Maple Ridge Mission, totaling over 700. We've invested $21 million in fee subsidies, which is savings for families, up to $1,900 a year per family. That's $21 million more that families are able to spend in our community, that are able to support local businesses. We supported our early childhood educators with wage enhancements, and we offered post-secondary training spaces to help fill the need. We're building on our amazing work that we've already done and are committed to expanding our $10 a day spaces to more families so that parents can save thousands of dollars each month and help families get ahead. We're going to continue to ensure childcare spaces are being prioritized and built into capital plans for schools, housing projects, and other projects across the province. And we're working towards providing universal access to before and after school care on school grounds so that parents know their kids are safe at one place for the full workday. Because investing in childcare is good for our children, it's good for our families, and it's good for our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to move to a quick question on tourism. The tourism industry is one of the, if not the most, hard-hit sector during COVID-19. What will your party do to support tourism businesses through the pandemic if elected? Cheryl.
Okay, so virtually our tourism, we are specifically targeting this removal of the small business tax. And we're also looking at or guaranteeing that we're going to do the guarantee loans to ensure that and targeted at the tourism and hospitality industry, because we know that they've been hit the hardest. I know that they are sitting waiting for a plan that the that the NDP had said they would bring a consultative table together, and then the election was held, and so they are still waiting for that, and they are expecting to have further losses by the time a new government is formed. So we will make it our immediate priority to address them because they have been left hanging by the snap election, the one area that was definitely impacted the most. So we will be addressing, like our small businesses, we'll go specifically into tourism, hospitality, make all of the support so that they can expand their business to ensure that they're still within COVID restrictions, that they can, the PPE, the additional provisions that they need within their businesses to make sure that they open up safely. They're working with municipalities to expand patio and licensing and such. And actively, once we do get past COVID, do like we have always done and just market BC to the world and make sure that once we can again start traveling and start having that, we are ready. We had a very, very vibrant tourism industry prior to COVID, and we plan on bringing that right back to point. And that was through the work of the BC Liberals. So tourism, hospitality is a priority for us. We will be moving on that immediately after the government is formed, hopefully by the BC Liberals, who will definitely be the only ones that will be able to bring that industry back because of our proven track record.
Lisa?
Thank you, Ken. It has been an incredible honor to serve as BC's Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture over the past 3 years. When John Horgan made the call and asked me to take on the file, I can't explain how excited I was. Because for those of you who don't know, I do come from the tourism industry. I was a flight attendant and a pilot. I love the industry, I love the people, and I have worked tirelessly over the past 3.5 years for our tourism businesses and for the over 140,000 people who work in tourism related jobs. I really appreciate this question because I absolutely agree that tourism has been the hardest hit sector by the pandemic, which is why I worked closely with the sector right from the beginning and took their priorities into account. We took immediate actions to support their industry, and we are making those actions permanent. And due to a strong, coordinated provincial approach and the hard work and the sacrifice of all British Columbians, we were able to start traveling safely and respectfully across our province this summer. We were able to explore our own backyard. But the number one need for tourism businesses is liquidity. And the tourism sector has been extremely clear. What they don't need is more loans and to take on more debt. We are providing $300 million in recovery grants for small and medium-sized businesses, which tourism operators are eligible for an additional $10,000 top-up. We established a task force of leaders from the tourism sector to work together on ideas to help that sector. That work is happening today. We've given them an additional $50 million to spend on their ideas as a starting point, and we gave them the power to do that. We're providing over $50 million in destination development funding to create jobs in communities and to make sure our tourism sector is ready to receive visitors once again when our borders open. Our government values the tourism businesses, and we know how important tourism is to our economy. And the best way to support our tourism sector is to keep our curve flat as people move about our province, because following Dr. Henry's advice is how we got here and how we're going to be able to move forward. I want to continue to encourage everyone to follow that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move to municipal tax regulatory changes to unleash business growth. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the last of it. This chamber was involved in starting up the intermunicipal business license, and I'd like to stick with that for a little bit. As businesses look for opportunities to expand, easier and greater access to intermunicipal business licenses would encourage them to look beyond their municipal borders for the next prospective venture. To encourage enhanced business opportunities, would your party support further expansion of the intermunicipal mobile business license program? Cheryl.
Yeah, I just remembered I just realized a big mistake. I read your question about my answer the last time because I was so focused on the mobile business license. So yeah, that actually, when I was on Maple Ridge Council back in it was one of the last bodies of work that I did around municipal business, mobile business licenses, because it was the #1 ask, reduction of red tape I mentioned, and the municipal mobile business license. And so I actually brought that to our municipal council, and at the time, the head of bylaws actually drafted up one of the documents that was then used, I believe, as the template for moving that forward. So absolutely, it's in our platform that we will support that we have to support that. It just makes it easy, the regulatory regulations to having to have a license for every community that you go into. When we're so interconnected, you see the paths of business and where people go to work now. It's never that straight, used to be straight east and west, and now it's like a spider web everywhere. That spider web across the lower mainland into different communities, different municipalities, those are business folks that are moving about, and we will do everything in our power to expand that and support municipalities at adopting that. And I think the business case can be made quite clearly now, the imperative of having those types of tools available to businesses to use. So absolutely, we will be supporting that and working to implement it broadly across the province.
Thank you very much. Lots of time left.
Oh, sorry.
Lisa.
Well, thank you, Ken. You're going to have lots of time left here too, because it's an easy answer. Absolutely, we will support that. As Cheryl actually very clearly outlined, this is a municipal decision, but our re-elected NDP government would provide the technical support and a shared database to any local governments who are interested in implementing a mobile business license partnership, and we'll continue building those relationships and working together in partnership with local governments to advance their priorities. So yes.
Well, thank you very much. They are thinking about it. We are working on it right now, and the program itself has been proven to be a moneymaker and saves money for the contractors. So I'm very proud of that program. On a personal note, Cheryl, for those of us who vote by person, not party, do you see yourself as approachable? And could you cite examples of how you've interacted with the Pitt Meadows community and Maple Ridge community in a non-partisan fashion?
Yeah, since moving here in 1995, I've interacted with both communities just because I wanted to immerse myself right away. I knew that by making connections from day one, that would be how I would grow that sense of home for my family, for my children. We'd come from a very different setting, having lived on a sailboat, and I knew the transition to home and neighborhood was something that they were apprehensive about. So my first days in the communities was making sure I was involved. I am very approachable. I have relationships with all stakeholders in this community, as far as whether it be nonprofits in Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows served by community services, relationships with school district, relationship with local government. I'm very approachable. I'm about a collaborative table environment. I listen more than I speak, which isn't evidence this morning with us running out the clock every time, but I do listen more than I speak. And I'm on, a lot of the bodies of work that we see and we benefit from, whether it's the environmental school, whether it's Foundry Ridge Meadows, whether it is initiatives to advance tourism. I've been at those tables. I've been a collaborator at that table. A lot of the documents that you see that have guided work that serve both Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, the first substance misuse prevention strategy that was launched by Maple Ridge Council, the 34 recommendations. I was the chair of that body of work. I have connections, I have history, I have knowledge, and I have, I think, a commitment to both communities that are just something that is near and dear to my heart. And I'm just really looking forward to working for both communities and bringing their voices to these other tables, listening to them, and taking that back to Victoria.
Thank you. Lisa, I'll read the question again. For those of us who vote by person, not party, do you see yourself as approachable? And can you cite examples how you've interacted with the Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge community in a nonpartisan fashion?
Thanks, Ken. I really like this question because I have lived here almost my whole life. In fact, I cannot wait to ask Cheryl sometime over coffee about what growing up on a sailboat was like, because that just sounds fascinating. But, you know, I was lucky enough to grow up here. And so, you know, I've been here over 40 years, but I've only been in politics for the past 5. I love this community. And for me, our community comes first. I'm a mom. I get to spend so much time in our community, not as an MLA, but as the mother of a 5-year-old. I get to experience all the same things that so many other families are experiencing in Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows. I get to meet with parents and chat every time I bring Brinley to her dance class or to gymnastics. You know, we love attending gallery openings and festivals and events. We'll take our treats from Stomping Grounds Cafe and go sit on the benches at Osprey Village and watch the river, and then go play at Harris Road Spray Park. I mean, her favorite place in the world is Maple Ridge Park and hanging out in the river there. And we get to connect with families every single time we do that. Everywhere we go, we meet new people. We get to share our experiences. We get to share them with neighbors. We get to make new friends. So, you know, our communities have definitely been growing, but they haven't lost that small town feel, those connections, you know, which is why I chose Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows as the place that I want to raise my family, and I want to continue calling home. So really, if you see Brinley and me out in the community, please come up and say hi. Please, you know, give us a hello, because, you know, this is home and we love connecting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question is coming to us from one of our younger members. And with the focus on getting youth out to vote, I'd like to know, what will you do to encourage millennials to become entrepreneurial in Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows? Cheryl.
So our business development, our economic development as a party definitely has all of those pieces, because we're open to all. It's actually quite, one of the reasons I was very excited about joining the BC Liberals and Andrew Wilkinson's team when I went down to the party head office there over a year ago, and I went onto the floor. Every single person in that head office is under the age of 40 and equally divided, male, female, all walks of life, all nationalities, all working together and all energized. And I thought, wow, this is why I was signing on as a person. I was signing on because I'm at that stage in my life, and Lisa is at a beautiful stage of her life with that lovely little girl enjoying the community. And my heart goes out to those memories of doing that. I now get to have that a little bit with my grandchildren. But my intentions of being an elected official is to go and build out that British Columbia for that generation that right now is so busy, because they are having to be entrepreneurs. They are having to figure out what their career path is. They're going to have to create the jobs of the future that they then fill. They are coming into a very different world than what I did when I left high school. And I want to make sure that we're leading a province that advances that research and development and technology and embraces that generation and makes it as simple and as low cost as possible for them to be those entrepreneurs. And you cannot do that if you are narrowly focused into one sector of driving the employee base, and that being the public sector. You must protect the public sector. And I am so thrilled that I know that Andrew Wilkinson respects how we must grow healthcare. We must look after our seniors. He is bringing us, he is moving us into that gap that was so desperately needed. But he also is bringing along the rest of the province, because it is those young people who will be needed to be brought along, because they will be creating those jobs from a type of economic environment that the BC Liberals will be creating.
Thank you very much. Lisa, what would you do to encourage millennials to become entrepreneurial in Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows?
Thank you. So we want to provide opportunities for those who want to be entrepreneurial. So we need to make sure that we're training our leaders for the jobs that are coming. We're going to continue our BC Access Grant, which is the first new investment in post-secondary grants in 15 years. Unfortunately, it was cut by the previous government. We want to create more learning and training opportunities around the province to provide our youth with the skills that they need to succeed in their ventures. Through Strategic Investment Fund announced as part of our recovery plan, we're going to make targeted investments in high potential, innovative businesses that are based here in BC. We're going to expand our Rev Up program, and that brings business owners together with experienced mentors who provide coaching and advice on successful, innovative business. We're making BC a preferred location for new ideas and tech. Our new intellectual property strategy is going to include a first patent program to provide eligible businesses with a rebate on expenses that lead to obtaining their first patent. We're going to continue to support innovation clusters across BC. Some of the best results come when companies, when academics, when researchers, entrepreneurs are all brought together in that same shared space. And we're going to foster that collaboration with a particular focus on emerging industries, where BC companies have developed the early lead. We have life sciences and emergency management technology, engineering, wood, clean tech, artificial intelligence, quantum, virtual technologies, all of which we are leaders here in BC. And we're going to create 2,000 new tech relevant spaces in post-secondary institutions, provide startups with more ISI grants so that they can hire new grads. And with a priority for placements with women, with Indigenous people, transitioning workers, we'll expand scholarships using online courses for necessary skills and upgrades, because we want to encourage our millennials to succeed.
Thank you. Last question, I'm going to take it right from the Zoom webinar chat. It's a local, so this will be the last one before your closing arguments. With an increase in residents moving to Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows, how do you see this area preparing for the increase in population and traffic issues? And do you support residential buildings over 10 stories with retail spaces on the ground?
Hi, thank you for that question. So we will be working very closely with, I personally will be working very closely with both city councils. They have very robust official community plans, and we need to look at how do we support them getting there. We do know that our $30.9 billion infrastructure infusion will be generating projects specifically for this community. Clearly, because it was a snap election, we've had to pull all this together, and I know that the request for the Pitt Meadows Secondary School is a priority for that growth of children that would be coming into the community. We've had a lot of questions around post-secondary options here in the community. I've already started conversations around, that piece. Is it a collaborative like the old Thomas Haney model where there was secondary school and post-secondary options, and that we need to be making sure that we're building integrated infrastructure. There was a really good question about trade infrastructure in your questions that we never got to, and I'm passionate about that. Really building smart communities, really looking at the infrastructure projects that are not just thrown at you to get an election win, but has that long-term revenue return pay it forward return to the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years in a community, because we constructed those infrastructure projects that were those trade infrastructures. So the growing of the highways and making sure, like the George Massey Bridge is complete. My daughter-in-law works at Children's Hospital in the mental health ward there. And the day that the NDP canceled the project, the George Massey replacement project, 8 nurses that week said, can't do this community anymore, we quit. When you don't build infrastructure that is smart for movement of goods and people and enhancing trade, you lose investment, you lose opportunity. And all the other stuff that the NDP want to give you doesn't come because we don't have the money, and they go into debt, and then the BC Liberals have to dig us out. We need to be smart about how we build our communities, and I will be smart about how we build our communities. I will not announce things that are just for the sake of getting reelected. I will deliver on projects we need to move forward.
Thank you very much. Lisa, with an increase in residents moving to Maple Ridge-Pitt Meadows, how do you see this area preparing for the increase in population and traffic issues? And do you support residential buildings over 10 stories with retail spaces on the ground floor?
Thank you, Ken. And this is a good project because our region is expected to grow, over the next 10 years significantly. And so we need to make sure that we're planning for that in advance. We need to make sure that we have a focus on increasing the supply of market housing, affordable market housing, and build on the 25,000 homes that are already completed or underway across the province. We need to focus on Low Heat Highway and Harris Road, which I've been doing for the past years already, working closely with Pitt Meadows City, with Katesy First Nation and Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, because we need to improve these vital types of infrastructure that are going to be carrying these new loads of people. We need to be focusing on our schools and providing space for the 1,400 students that we're going to be getting over the next 10 years, which is why we purchased land in East Albion, an additional piece of land in East Albion for school growth. We are committed to purchasing the land in Silver Valley and rebuilding Pitt Meadows High School so that we can accommodate that growth of students. And we are committed to delivering a steady stream of projects over the next 5 years. This is the work that we've been doing every single day for the past 3.5 years. This is work we'll continue doing together in collaboration with local governments, in collaboration with First Nations, and with collaboration with the local school boards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, in reverse order from how we started, we're going to go to your closing sentences. So that would be Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. This has been a wonderful experience. And Lisa, thank you for the exchange and all that. Stay safe on the trail. And I don't know, oh yeah, we get a couple more with environment, but it's just all the best to you. Stay safe. And thank you, everybody. This is really an opportunity of a lifetime for me to represent this community, and the business community is just so important that I really appreciate the fact that I've had this opportunity. Last night on the leaders debate, John Horgan continually mentioned that the election was not about the next few months, but rather the next 4 years. Let's look at the track record of the NDP over the last 3 years and how it affects business. Since assuming power in July 2017, British Columbia's NDP government has enacted or announced several significant tax increases. These include increases in personal income taxes, carbon taxes, and business taxes. I will note that they did maintain the BC Liberal budget pledge to reduce the small business tax rate from 2.5% to 2%, so that was a good thing. However, they introduced the payroll health tax and a variety of residential property taxes that have been instituted or raised. Once the tax changes are fully implemented, the average family tax bill will increase by a total of $959. Most of that will come to roost next year, 2021, when the carbon tax is fully loaded. 1/3 of that is from the employer health tax on people who never used to have to pay MSP premiums. So they did, in fact, hit the most vulnerable that they were claiming to protect. All of these taxes affect people's purchasing power and directly affects the performance of our province and whether you stay in business. So John is correct. It is not about the next few months. It is about the past 3 years and whether we can afford another 4 years of the NDP tax and spend regime. My promise to you is that I will be available. I know the BC Liberals track record. We have built British Columbia. 13 years in power, 0 hospitals built by the NDP. In our years, 14 hospitals. We built British Columbia. We look after people. We know how to make sure that you as a business will survive growing out of this pandemic. Please support me in the next election and I will work to ensure that.
Thank you, Cheryl. Lisa, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Ken. I want to begin by thanking the Chamber for organizing the forum today and for all the great questions, and really thank Cheryl for the good discussion. But most importantly, I want to thank anyone who joined us today online and is watching on Facebook Live or rewatching this later over this next week, because we all love the community and we all want what's best for the place that we call home. As I said earlier in my opening statement, it really has been an honor to serve as your MLA over the past 3.5 years. Together, we've been able to accomplish so much, and there is so much more we want to do. I also want to say it's been particularly gratifying to work, with all the businesses in the community and work with the Chamber, especially, over these past few months. COVID-19 has tested us all. It has caused enormous anxiety for everyone, including our business community. But it's also shown that we can pull together, and we can confront and overcome big challenges. And that's a tribute to every single British Columbian, every single business. I believe that John Horgan has led our province well through this emergency. We've listened to experts. We mobilized resources. We focused on people, and we brought people together. And I believe that approach is what we need to steer us through the pandemic and to help build a recovery that works for everyone here in Maple Ridge, in Pitt Meadows, and really throughout the province. As your MLA, I will continue working as hard as I can as part of Premier Horgan's team to make sure that parents can send their kids to safe schools, that our loved ones get good care, that we invest in jobs and economic opportunity, and that we focus on economic recovery. No doubt we have big challenges ahead, but by working together, we can build a better community and a better province for all British Columbians to live in. And I hope everyone gets out and vote, and I would ask for your support. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Cheryl and Lisa, I want to thank both of you for coming here today. I also want to thank both of you for your years of community service. I know what it's like to be a volunteer. There's a lot of time there. So thank you very much. I want to thank the staff here at the Chamber, because even though you're watching this on here, there's a lot of setup going on in the background. So I'd like to thank them very much. And thank you to all of everybody that tuned in to watch this. Thank you for informing yourself, making yourself aware of the issues, and voting. It's always important to vote. It looks like we're going to close up early. I got 6 minutes, but I'm going to close up early anyway. Everybody can get on with their day. I want to thank you very much. And for people tuning in at 1 o'clock, we'll have the Maple Ridge Mission riding coming on. So tune in for that. And thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks, Glory. Thanks, team. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Take care, Lisa.
You too.